So as most of you know, and as most of you agree with me, we're all suckers for removed content within the Bioshock series. So today, I'm kind of switching things up a little bit on you guys. I'm breaking the code, I know, don't hate me. I promise it's going to be worth it. Instead of looking at removed characters that were in the Bioshock franchise, or supposed to be in the Bioshock franchise, but ultimately ended up getting cut, today we're going to be looking at levels from Bioshock 1, 2, and Infinite that didn't quite make the final product. Now, I do swear to you that there are a lot of interesting levels that weren't in the game. So, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoy it. If you want to see a part 2, let me know down in the comment section below. And also, with that being said, would you kindly sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Coming in at the number 10 slot in today's video is the Kashmir Restaurant in Bioshock 1. You know, the one that actually started Rapture's Civil War, the one that got bombed. Yeah, that one. So if you guys missed the video that I did on the Civil War, there will be a card in the top right hand corner of this screen or a link down in the description if you guys want to check it out. Anyways, the Kashmir Restaurant. The restaurant had a block door leading to the Footlight Theater that was supposed to have a lot more bodies than the two seen in the game in front of the door, resembling everyone trying to get out at the same time and trampling each other during the attack on New Year's Eve. So, there's that. Also, the Atlas statue in the restaurant has a slightly different model than what can be seen within the game. And there were some screenshots as well. I'll leave those down in the description for you guys. So I really wish there would have been more to the Kashmir Restaurant. I wish we could have seen the aftermath of the bombings, but however, we cannot. So that was number 10. So for the number 9 slot, I'm actually going to implement two different levels that were cut. And this is also from Bioshock 1. One of them being one of the more interesting ones in my opinion, and then something that was more of an amusement park. So, first off, we have the Rapture Zoo, and I've talked about this before a long time ago. The Rapture Zoo was an area that was intended to be included in Bioshock as a part of Fort Frolic. Multiple interviews with the developers of the game mentioned that this was a level and was cut ultimately far along within the design process due to time constraints, and they indicate that if it was one of the things that they regretted having to cut out. The only known piece of information about this level is that it would have featured an elephant. I think the zoo would have featured many more animals besides an elephant, but the fact that it even says that the developers actually regretted having to cut out this level kind of breaks my heart. I would have loved to just roam around Fort Frolic and actually see the Rapture Zoo. I'm not sure about you guys. And then the other one is the Ferris wheel. So also, a Ferris wheel was supposed to be included somewhere in the map, but much like the Rapture Zoo, the wheel was cut far into the process. Luckily, it was included in the DLC for Bioshock in the challenge rooms, where you have to rescue the little sister from the burning Ferris wheel. So, in the end, we got that in the game, but not in the actual base game. We got it in DLC, so there's that. And at the number 8 slot, we have an unused part of the medical pavilion, and this has to do with someone that I really enjoy in the game, that being Dr. Bridget Tenenbaum. If you guys want to check out a video that I did about Tenenbaum as well, there'll be a card at the top right hand corner of the screen for you guys to click on, or again, down in the description below. But I digress. Early promotional images of the medical pavilion show it being full of makeshift barricades and barbed wire, making it appear much more like a literal war zone. The pavilion's metro station was also originally located in a separate building and connected to the medical center via a glass tunnel. A Tenenbaum B PhD plaque is found in the game's files for the level, which was not used in the final version of the game. This indicates that Bridget Tenenbaum did have an office in the medical pavilion at one point during development, and the developers had thoughts of implementing that into the medical pavilion. So the credentials were there. She's a doctor. She would have had her own wing in the medical pavilion, but for some reason they decided to actually remove that and ultimately cut it from the game. I wish they would have gave Tenenbaum a little bit more in the game, but that's okay. She's the one that rescues the little sisters, or at least helps you rescue the little sisters, so it's fine by me. And at the number 7 slot is a level that you and I can probably both agree that this would have been awesome if it would have made the final cut in Bioshock 2. So we're going back to the Kashmir restaurant, except this time it's going to be the New Year's Eve riots. In the retail version of Bioshock 2, the introduction level is Adonis Luxury Resort, though it was the last to be created during the game's development. Also, it is named Prelude 2 in the game's files for a simple reason. Developers at 2K Marin had already created a Prelude level which was eventually scrapped. This level would have been the famous first level of Bioshock, or at least parts of it, Welcome to Rapture, but recreated as what it would look like during the 1958 New Year's Eve bombing at the Kashmir restaurant. This introduction would have been a playable flashback in which the player controlled Subject Delta, protecting Eleanor as a little sister inside the Kashmir restaurant when the bombs went off, and when the 1958 riots erupted. At the end of the flashback, Subject Delta would have woken up in the ruins of the flooded Kashmir restaurant 10 years after the events of the first Bioshock. The only parts of this unused level left in the Bioshock 2's files are that of the introduction cinematic of the game, which shows a slightly different version of the level, the loading screen images that would have been displayed during its loading, and radio messages. The two party goer models also have a bloodied and beaten up variant, which would have likely been seen during the attack on the Kashmir. And there will be screenshots provided down in the description under the source tab for you guys. So this would have been a badass thing to see. Just throwing that out there. I wish it would have been in the game. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. And at our number 6 slot is Fontaine Futuristics. If you guys are up to date with your lore and have knowledge of Fontaine Futuristics, you would know that, well, I'm not going to spoil it for you guys, but you know what happens to it. Anyways, in Bioshock 2, the Fontaine Futuristics level was to have been 90 to 100% out in the ocean, rather than inside a building. The player would have had to try to find a way to safely float down the ocean trench behind Fontaine Futuristics to reach Persephone. There was a balloon ride device idea where the player would ride the balloon to float to the bottom. An area in Fontaine Futuristics would have shown the players how Adam was extracted from the Little Sisters without killing them in the process. Not much is known about the concept, however, but it was described by the game developers as being quite brutal. So, thankfully, we didn't see how the Adam was extracted, and I'm completely okay with that. However, the idea of having to navigate down the ocean trench would have been a quite unique thing for Bioshock, considering the fact that Bioshock 2 was unique in its own right, actually having you go out on the ocean floor. So I think that would have worked, but showing how the Adam was extracted from the Little Sisters, not so much. You guys know how much the Little Sisters mean to me, but again, I digress. So in at my number 5 slot, I'm going to do a little pandering to my UK fans, because I don't show you guys enough love, and I do apologize. So this one is for you, and especially if you enjoy the Big Ben Tower. Originally, in Minerva's Den, there was going to be a Big Ben-like clock, so let's get into it. And it would have been titled the Big Ben of Rapture. A large clock was originally planned to be located at the top of Minerva's Den. The clock would have been illuminated from the inside, allowing it to be seen from all of Rapture. The gears located in the center of the structure would have been connected to the facility's computer system, aka the Thinker, and would have been explorable by the character, although the glass tower idea did not appear in the finished version of Minerva's Den. A large glass clock was incorporated into the boardroom of the den's executive wing. So again, for all my UK fans, here you go. This one's for you. I love you guys. Now, in at my number 4 slot is Ryan Amusements, and I'm going to preface this by saying it's a little confusing, because in early concept arts, the actual person who discovered Adam, or the slug connection of Adam apparently, was supposed to be a man, and not Tenenbaum. So, to me that's a little confusing as to why 2K Marin, primarily the ones who developed Bioshock 2, wanted to push that Adam was discovered by a male, not Tenenbaum, in their game. I'm glad that they didn't. I'm glad that they stuck with Bioshock 1's story in terms of the actual backstory, I should say. And I just don't quite get it. But again, whatever, I digress. It's just a little confusing. Anyways, let's get into it. So, the Hall of the Future wing of Ryan Amusements was meant to be more than just a showcase of plasmids. Concept art shows the wing also showcased Adam's origins, showing displays, harvesting methods, and dissections of the sea slug, along with the substance known as Adam, and again, along with a portrait of the person who discovered the slug connection, like I just mentioned at the beginning, which really confuses me, but whatever. The concept shows one final DeLorean in the Rapture Memorial Museum of a man in a diving suit, similar to that of the Big Daddies, in a heroic pose, with the words, "Welcome to Rapture," behind a miniature cityscape. The statue was designed to imply that Big Daddies were originally created to be the workers that built the city. The final DeLorean was ultimately replaced by the destroyed exhibit in the final game. And you can actually kind of see where Irrational took inspiration of this particular part. In Burial at Sea Episode 1, when Booker steps out of his office and you can actually look out and see some Big Daddy actually working on the outside of Rapture, there it is. So I'm glad that that was implemented into the game. Unfortunately though, I would have liked to see this level in Bioshock 2. I think it would have given it a little bit more depth in terms of just the overall surroundings, as well as just more depth to Ryan Amusements. And now we crack the top 3 of this list. All of these levels are going to be from Bioshock Infinite, and they were in either demos or in trailers of the game before it came out, obviously. So the fascinating thing about this is how different either the levels were in the final product of the game, whereas they were in the demos or trailers, or if they were just removed altogether. So the fact that you can showcase something off to the public, then when the finished product comes out, it's completely different. It just fascinates me. So, in at the number 3 slot, we have Emporia. Emporia in the E3 2011 demo was way different from the final version of the game. Originally mentioned in an IGN article, this location in particular would have been the 3rd level of the game. As with the final version, however, the Emporia district was vandalized by the Vox, as well as seeing citizens being tortured and executed along the way towards Comstock House. Aside from removed content, some scripted scenes and areas were altered and moved into other parts of the game. A store resembling Major's Notions, Sundries, and Novelties was moved into Battleship Bay and Soldier's Field, as well as its scripted Songbird scene moved to the final part of the Grand Central Depot instead. The scene with Elizabeth resurrecting a dying horse was removed, and the tear that led to an alternate 1983 was moved to Monument Tower. A similar scene featuring Daisy Fitzroy projecting herself in the demo was altered for Shantytown, only shown on the side of the First Lady instead of a red curtain on a building. Although the saved dentist that pulled the Vox teeth was removed, a similar scene is featured when arriving in Memorial Gardens before passing by the gate of Comstock House, where 2 Vox members are grave robbing a corpse for gold teeth fillings. The battle with the Vox security Zeppelin and its alarm was altered greatly and replaced with a similar version moved towards the factory in Finkton. So again, it's just interesting to see the initial E3 demo, which I would highly recommend that you check out, as to the final version of Bioshock Infinite that we got, how different levels can be just like that. So, pretty interesting. So as I previously mentioned in the number 3 slot, it's really interesting to see kind of the development process of a game. Whether you see certain levels end up in a game, get removed from a game, character development, etc. It's just always interesting to see that process, at least for myself. I'm not sure if you guys are interested in that. But this level almost didn't make it into Bioshock Infinite, and it's one of my personal favorites in the entire game. And that, at the number 2 slot, is Shantytown. So interestingly enough, Shantytown was cut not long after a VGA trailer of Bioshock Infinite, which showed the level off. The reason the level was cut was completely unknown, obviously only by the developers. What's even more mysterious is that after one particular developer left due to Shantytown not being included, it was finally included in the finalized game. So it took a developer leaving the studio for Irrational to actually realize that it was a good idea to put it in the game. Early iterations of Shantytown were headed by art director Nate Wells, and fun fact, he's the one that voices Jack in Bioshock 1, but that's another fact for another video. Anyways, drawing inspiration from the slums of Jamaica and Key West, and here's a direct quote from Nate Wells. All of the housing was wooden and colorful, as if painted by the residents to make the depressed quarters more livable. And each bright shack was stacked atop the next, climbing into the sky like an anthill, with the skyline piercing through it, end quote. However, creative director Ken Levine argued that it looked like the residents lived in garbage. It needed to be beautiful because Columbia was designed so that even the poor lived beautifully. Man, if only that were true. But, oh well. Originally, there were to be more beggars and dying people that were lying on the streets. Some of these beggars would actually grab Elizabeth and plead for money and food. Dead people could be found where Elizabeth would end up giving them flowers, putting them in peaceful positions. This is still seen in the main game in some portions of Emporia. So again, to me, it's just interesting to see how much a level can actually change, or altogether just be removed from a game, and then directly inserted back into the game. So, to me, Shantytown is one of the more interesting ones on this list. So now, in at the top of my list, my number 1 slot. It's probably one of the more interesting ones in my personal opinion as well, and I actually made a video on the character that was supposed to be in this level. And if you guys want to check that out, I'm referring to the Mad Toy Maker. I did a video on, I think, 10 or 15 cut characters. I'll put a card at the top right of the corner of the screen that you guys can click on and go check out. If not, it'll be at the end of the video and you can click on the screen then, or I'll leave a link for you guys down in the description. So, in at the number 1 spot is the Mad Toy Maker's shop. One level that was cut from Bioshock Infinite was the Mad Toy Maker's shop. This level was possibly going to be in or near Emporia, and would have pitted Booker and Elizabeth against the madman who created automatronics for Columbia. Originally, the Mad Toy Maker and his shop was going to be of some importance in the game given the amount of concept art that was created by Rob Waters for the Mad Toy Maker's toys, but ultimately the style of the level was eventually cut and the entire idea was scrapped. I think this would have worked in Infinite, just for the simple fact you had things like the Patriots and stuff like that, the rockets, etc., the turrets, the mosquitoes and stuff. So I really do think that this level could have had functionality within Infinite, and it would have added just a little bit more depth to the game, along with another boss. So really there weren't too many boss fights, in my opinion, in Infinite. So this would have just added a whole new one, and a unique one at that. Who knows? Maybe he could have thrown some different sort of machinery at you, or he could have had his entire level, or his shop in this case, booby trapped. So when Booker and Elizabeth are trying to get from point A to point B, they set off a trap. I don't know. There's a lot that they could have done with this, and it's just really unfortunate that it was ultimately cut. So that sucks. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you want to see more like this in terms of cut levels, potentially other sort of cut content down the line, please let me know down in the comment section below. I would greatly appreciate that. If you enjoyed the video, let me know down in the comments. You can leave a like, you can leave a dislike. It is completely okay. That decision is up to you. However, if you're new here and enjoy the content or just Bioshock content in general, and then eventually Borderlands 3, The Last of Us Part 2, I want to get into Fallout eventually down the line. If any of that piques your interest, would you kindly hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications to never miss a video or a live stream when I public a video or when I go live with a live stream, because YouTube is a little weird with that sometimes. Also, if you want to help me out personally, you can share the video on social medias like Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, etc. Whichever social media you use, it is greatly appreciated. Also, if you want to follow me on any of my social medias, those will be down in the description for you guys to go check out if you are interested. Anyways, thank you for watching today's video. I really do appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed it. And with that being said, I will talk to you all in the next video. Take care and have a great rest of your day or night, my Rapture family. See ya.